please welcome Vice President and General Manager of Platform, Brian Elliott.
Good morning, and welcome to the Curiosity Track. This is for you, the thousands of developers, in fact, over 500,000 developers who work today on Slack's platform, using it to make your lives and your coworkers' lives simpler, more pleasant, and more productive. You're in for 2 days of immersive learning, getting your hands into the code, learning from each other, and talking and giving feedback to all of us. I'm going to give you a quick overview of the Slack platform and why we're here. Then Bear Douglas, our Director of Developer Relations, will come up. She's going to spotlight a few of our customer success stories, things that people have built using the platform to make their teams work easier. Ellie Powers, who's our Director of Product Management, is then going to come up and talk about the product roadmap and where we're headed, joined by a couple members of our team to give you a couple demos, and Bear will come back and wrap it up with some cool new news. Before we get to all that, let's talk about why we're here. Software is proliferating. The average enterprise company now uses over 1,000 different tools. Those tools are highly specialized, and they make you much more effective and help you get your job done. The challenge is they also can create silos. Teams that sit in different products and tools have a hard time sharing information, not to mention try to remember which tool gives me the information I need. Do I have the login stored? How do I get at it? And then once I get at it, how do I share it with my team? Am I going to copy and paste it and put it into an email? Toss it around? That becomes a challenge. Second is that every company is unique. You each have custom ways in which you do work, whether that's hiring new employees, bringing people on board, IT issues, creative approvals, you name it. All of these workflows are unique to what you need to do. That's why in a recent survey of over 650 IT professionals around the world, a couple of things that came out of this. First of all of those tools are great, but only 29% of them are integrated, meaning that they can actually talk to one another. So think about this. You've got the Zendesk ticket information that sits in one side with the customer support team, and engineering using Jira on the other, but they aren't connected with each other. These siloed apps are leading to and compounding the effects of siloed organizations. But it's not just the siloed tools. It's the fact that there's not a great way to provide a user experience that actually brings them all together. 36% of the same folks said that they can't provide a great experience that actually links users across those tools. Clearly, email alone is not the answer. In fact, when you add these things together, 84% of these same IT professionals said that this is actually hampering their main job in life, which is to push digital transformation forward. Work is increasingly cross-functional, meaning you need to share across different teams. You need more data that comes out of those tools to make your job more effective. And critically, you want this to work on mobile as well. So, how do I bring this all together? I'm sure you're going to be shocked when I tell you the Slack platform is how. Our mission is to make your working lives simpler, more pleasant, and more productive. We want to make it much easier for you to integrate all the tools that your teams use on a daily basis, making it easier to share information across functional boundaries, and enabling you to take quick contextual action directly from Slack with all of your work tools. We do this in 2 ways today. Many of you have built wonderful apps that actually sit in our app directory. There's over 1,500 apps in the directory today. These can be productivity tools, email, calendar, calls, files, and they can also be specialized in role-specific tools. Zendesk, HubSpot, Jira. We also have over 450,000 custom apps and integrations that get used on a weekly basis inside of Slack. Over the next 2 days, we'll show you how to leverage the Slack platform for your own business's needs to bring those apps and integrations to life. First, let's talk about what this looks like. So today, if a team outside of Slack is trying to get work done, let's imagine someone who's trying to launch a new product. You've got a customer support team that's working with a pilot customer, engineering team, sales organization that manages the account, marketing, and product all together in one spot. New problem comes up with a pilot customer. Customer service agent gets the ticket inside of Zendesk. They then have to go and ask the salesperson, is this an important account? Do we have to, how urgent is this issue that we should look into? Salesforce person looks it up in Salesforce, emails them back. After that, they contact the engineer who logs the bug and eventually pushes a deploy out to get the fix taken care of. Eventually, the customer service agent finds out the fix has actually been done and can close the ticket. And at some point, someone probably needed to actually update a knowledge base with the information that was contained in that too. All of those steps, crossing organizational boundaries, happening in email in particular, slow you down and actually make it less transparent to different parts of the team. Let's take a look at what this looks like inside of Slack. And let's do it in mobile. So the team is all plugged in together. Customer support, product, engineering, sales, and marketing in the feedback channel. The incident comes in, the customer service agent is able to share the ticket from Zendesk, and it actually unfurls and shows content of the information. Sally, who's in sales, can actually see the ticket right there, looks at it and goes, can we look at this as soon as possible? This is one of our largest accounts, and in fact can actually pull the content from Salesforce just to show everybody else how big of a deal this customer is. Ben, one of the engineers working on the team, says, this looks like the same issue we were discussing this morning, I'm on it. He's already working on this. So what Ben can do is use a message action to actually take the content directly from that Salesforce ticket and add it to his existing Jira issue. Doing this allows him to actually update that issue and actually integrate together both Zendesk and Jira. He's taken not only the content, but he can actually pull the ticket ID. So in doing so, you've actually integrated Zendesk and Jira without ever having to leave Slack. Message is actually posted back into the channel so everybody else can see it at the same time. And when Ben's got a fix ready in GitHub, that also can be made visible to the rest of the team. So Sally asks, is it okay to ask the customer, to let the customer know that this will be out shortly, gets the thumbs up from Ben, and can actually update the ticket. So in the matter of a few minutes, they're able to see the context of the information that otherwise sits in these siloed systems. The right people, seeing the right data, coming from the right apps, getting their work done more simply and more productively. 1,500 apps in the Slack directory, but there are over 450,000 custom apps and integrations that people use on an every week basis. Over the next 2 days, we're going to show you how to do this yourselves, how to bring custom workflows into Slack, workflows that can integrate any tools, any data set, and any teams in ways that are built just for you. To share some examples of this, please join me in welcoming Bear Douglas, our Director of Developer Relations, to the stage.
So Brian shared a vision for what the platform can make possible, but it's all of you here today who take that field of possibility and turn it into concrete change at companies around the globe. Because this really is a global phenomenon. Over the course of the last year alone, we've seen nearly 2x growth in developer numbers in cities across the world. And our developer community is becoming increasingly international. We now have more developers in Bangalore than in New York, more in Seoul than in Austin, and Sydney more than doubled in developer count over the last year. So more and more developers are building on Slack around the world and at companies that are increasingly not tech companies. Here's a peek into what those developers have done to change how their organizations work every day. And we hope that their stories might find fuel for inspiration for all of you to what you can do at your own company. So we kick off in Boston with a story from Wayfair, one of America's fastest growing online retailers with over 14 million items in their online inventory. Wayfair's engineering team, which is about 2,000 people, relies on an app called Notify to triage, claim, and resolve alerts inside Slack. Notify alerts the team in Slack when there's a new incident, and an engineer can acknowledge it, use drop-downs to reassign it to another team, or escalate it. Entire teams can follow along in incident-related channels, and updates get reflected in third-party systems of record, like Datadog or ServiceNow. With Notify, engineers can acknowledge an incident on the go on their phones, and a manager can also follow along while they're taking their daily coffee break. Best of all, unifying information across services means that tasks that used to take 5 minutes now take 30 seconds inside Slack. Across the pond in London, Capgemini, which is a 200,000-person global consulting firm, has an experimental arm called the Applied Innovation Exchange. They're a fast-moving portion of the company that had the challenge to onboard up to 30 new employees every single week to their innovation lab. And until recently, they were managing that process using a spreadsheet. So enter Clio, a bot that can onboard new employees seamlessly from Slack. Clio provisions them the correct software that they need, like GitHub or Trello, and gathers critical information that managers need to assign them to projects. So on top of that, Clio logs each individual's response into a profile database that can later be searched when the AIE is looking to match employees to projects. And since employees are automatically provisioned with the right software, once they're matched to a project, a manager can just pick up an iPad and task them with something right away. So it all results in much less time to onboard the employees to the projects, tools, and workflows they need to get their jobs done. And what used to take an AIE team member, a person, an entire morning, now takes the app just a couple of minutes. Over in Japan, Nikkei is an 140-year-old global media company with over 3 million circulation in digital and in print, and thousands of journalists. Some of their journalists are using Slack to try something new and test a digital similar publishing process in a fast-moving news cycle. So here's how it works. They've created a custom app that enables their journalists to publish news stories live right from their phones while reporting out in the field. They can write a quick story as a simple message in Slack, just like here with the text and the image. And then after an editor has reviewed it, they can react with the green checkmark emoji to have it published instantly. They've also added custom emoji reactions that map onto tags on their website so that every story is published with the right categories attached without ever having to open the CMS. And this experiment has allowed Nikkei to take advantage of Slack to explore new ways of reporting without having to change or move away from their core system platforms. Over in New York, NBC News is improving the news gathering and publishing workflow in a different way, focused on connecting teams across silos. Their collaborative platform, News Connect, is a hub that connects journalists across properties like NBC News, MSNBC, CNBC, and other NBC-owned TV stations. Before News Connect, it was difficult to share information across all of NBC's businesses. Now, as news is breaking, senior editors can mark a story with labels that in turn pipe it into Slack channels that make it accessible to thousands of journalists at NBC. A label like Hot will push a notification into Slack, where multiple teams get visibility into high-priority stories and also the assets that they need to use that information in their own channels. NBC's custom apps also bring real-time insights about referral traffic from a story into Slack. It helps teams see which audiences are responding best to a story so they can make smarter decisions about the content that resonates best on each platform. Finally, some of my favorite types of app are the culture makers, the creative ways that people have a little bit of fun at work. Take a look at NVIDIA. They're a technology company whose invention of the GPU transformed computer graphics, and they're over 12,000 employees and probably best known for their advancements in artificial intelligence across a range of industries. They built a Slack bot that takes popcorn orders from hungry employees, which are then delivered by a robot named Carter right to their desk. And so while this is a lot of fun to use, it also has a practical purpose. Carter's creators are hoping that the popcorn bot can help demonstrate capabilities that they can use later for indoor logistics. So no two companies are exactly alike, and each of these examples showcases how Slack's platform can be useful in very different ways to different organizations. And it's becoming more powerful all the time. To tell you a little bit more about it, I'd like to welcome our Director of Platform Product, Ellie Powers, on stage.
Thanks, Bear. Hi, everybody. I'm Ellie, and I recently joined Slack last year. This is a great time, in my opinion, to be working on the platform. And the big reason why is we have so many users on Slack that we can reach with our apps. I've been amazed to see what you've built for them so far. And together with the apps that you've built and Slack, we are actually getting the chance to transform the way that work gets done. We see some of you building internal tools from your companies, some of you are building a business on Slack, and some of you are looking to automate your own work. And we wanted to understand all of you a bit better. So we did our research. We spoke to a bunch of developers, we crunched the numbers, we may or may not have even used machine learning. And now the data is in. This is what a typical development process looks like for a Slack app. Could be a little bit better. Maybe some of you might say it could have been a little bit easier to get started, a little bit easier to reach that success. We'd like to change this experience into something that feels more like this. That would be a lot better, a lot simpler. So what should we do first? It's your feedback that's been essential in choosing what we should work on. And today, I'm going to share a little bit more about how we're using your feedback to make it simpler to get started on the platform, to make apps more manageable and more dependable, and to create apps that are more engaging and easier to use. And we hope that all of these things together will grow usage of your apps, because at the end of the day, that's what we're all trying to do, right? To create a happy and engaged user base, more people whose work is being transformed through Slack. So let's talk about the first one of these. A big goal this year has been around reducing barriers to getting started. And as a developer, when you get started on a new platform, where do you spend your time? Well, docs and developer tools, right? So that's where we focused first. And we decided, rather than sending you to the docs, why don't we bring the docs to you? So we created a new Slack app called SDT, Slack DevTools. And this brings information about Slack development directly into Slack. We'd seen that developers were having to bounce around between a bunch of different browser windows, so we thought, we'll just bring it right to where you are. And when you're using SDT, if you see a message that you like and you say, that's a cool message, I wish my app could print out a message like that, you can actually inspect the JSON for it to see how it was built. And we think that this way of learning is nice and interactive. So please check it out and let us know what you think. We've also introduced Bolt. Bolt is a new development framework, and it's about reducing the complexity and the amount of time it takes to build on Slack. So if you're building with JavaScript, Bolt is going to be the new way to get started. Please let us know what you think about it as well. It does the heavy lifting around app setup. We hope this will allow you to focus more on the interactive components of your app. And this new structure will help you build better app logic. We're talking about robust routing, listeners, and middleware. It'll provide one simple interface, a more structured way of building apps, so that you can also access more modern platform features. We've heard that a lot of you want easier ways to access the web API and BlockKit, and Bolt will allow you to do that. It also has TypeScript support built in, and this will help you reduce context switching. Before, you used to have to go back and forth between documentation and your code editor all the time. Now you won't have to do that quite so much. Are there any developers here who are using Python? That's cool. So we have an announcement for you. We will soon be releasing V2 of the Python SDK. It's been updated to use Python 3, and this redesign also includes new features, things like type hints and return types. These are important things we heard from you. You wanted to improve the developer experience. And when you use this, you'll be able to accomplish more in Slack using less code. And that's a common theme you'll also see in the Node SDK v5. Are there any Node developers here? Great. So with the Node SDK v5, we've packaged up the web API, the RTM API, and also incoming webhooks. And we hope that with this, you'll be able to deliver the same functionality, but in a lot less code, and that will in turn improve your download speed and your bundle size. One really common request we've gotten is, what are the best practices around user experience in Slack? Things like, how do I greet a new user? What's the right way for an app to behave in a channel? And here at Slack, we've reviewed thousands of apps. So we figured, why not take the lessons that we've learned looking through so many apps and put them into some guides for you. You'll actually find the first one of these two guides on your seat today. It's an in-depth set of user interface guidelines. And it covers everything from how to understand your audience, to how to storyboard your app, to how to create an effective onboarding experience. And there's a second guide called Build, which is about the process of building apps. It goes well beyond APIs. It'll talk about the material from today in more depth, as well as things like getting the right team collaborators, deciding which workflows to build into Slack, and how to sketch out user journeys. And you'll find the Build guide on your seats tomorrow. So it's a good reason to come back. And it's not just important to be easy to build apps. It also is important that those apps are dependable. And we'd gotten some feedback from you that it was really annoying when you'd have a situation where the last authorized user would leave a workspace, and then what would happen to your app? Bye-bye app. It was no fun. So we've implemented some improvements there to make that happen much less frequently. Our next step around that is to give developers more control over what happens when the last authorized user leaves a workspace. So in the future, instead of just notifying the admin, you'll actually have a choice. And if you want, you could even have your app continue to function with a reduced set of scopes. So second improvement here, we've noticed that the best way to build apps for a team is around the bot token. So we're making the bot token model more flexible and more powerful. And we think the bot user is a great base for building apps because you just have to install it once, and then it can interact with the whole workspace. And when you have a bot user representing your app, it has a lot of benefits. It's easier for users to find, it'll show up in their left sidebar, and also it's easier for users to know if an app is part of a conversation. We wanted to respond to your feedback to make apps with bot tokens more flexible and more powerful. So one of the changes we're going to be introducing is a more granular permissions model. Apps will be able to choose only the scopes that they need, and that'll be great for any concerns your administrators might have. And then we also wanted to bring more functionality to bot tokens. So in the future, an app's bot user will be able to create new conversations, to invite and remove users, to set the topic and purpose for the conversation, and also archive those conversations when they're done. So in sum, it'll be easier with bot token apps to bring people together and help them get more work done using your app. Now, finally, we are focused on enabling richer, more engaging user app experiences with apps. Now, last spring, we launched Actions. Does anyone have an app that uses Actions already? That's great. And you're not alone. We actually have thousands of apps in our ecosystem that are already using Actions. And Actions, as you can see, are simple shortcuts. They can turn Slack messages into things like leads, tasks, issues, or any type of action in your app. And Actions can bring work into Slack, but they can also bring work back out of Slack as well. And this is very important because you want to make sure that no information is being lost in between Slack and your services. So in this example here, you can see that Asana, Zendesk, HubSpot, and Jira are all using Actions so that you can create a new task or ticket from a message in Slack, as you can see on the screen. And you can also bring a custom action to connect your internal tools. Let's give you an example from Slack. So here at Slack, we have a whole bunch of employee groups, and they needed a better way to manage their spend against their employee annual group budgets. So we built a custom app for them called the Employee Group Bot. Here's how it works. After an event, a group member can use Actions here to add the final event cost to the original event request. The dialog gets pre-filled with all the information, like the name of the event, and so on. And then, when you submit this with the final cost of the event, it sends a message to the group's president and treasurer. So here's an example of how Slack is making it easier with Actions to bring information back out of Slack to your tools as well. And next, I want to show you how we're making the in-Slack experience even more engaging. Who here has heard of BlockKit? That's great. This has been a really big launch that we had back in February. We've been so excited to use it and share it with you. And the reason for this is a real change in how simple, more flexible, and how interactive your apps can be. It gives you flexibility over the message hierarchy, and also it allows you to make your messages more directly actionable by users. And that was some big feedback we'd received. So when we first launched BlockKit, we had these 5 initial blocks here. We also announced a bunch of components like date pickers, dividers, and overflow menus. And this provides a toolbox for you to be able to display information and also to manipulate it. And we wanted this because we wanted users to have richer app experiences with that direct ability to take action. We thought that this would help drive engagement with your app. So if you haven't tried it out, we highly recommend that you evaluate it and see whether you might be able to create a better experience with your app. And if you can't, please let us know what we're missing that could help you out even more. So BlockKit enables more engagement through the introduction of primary content, which you can see highlighted at the top in red, and also secondary content, which you see highlighted at the bottom in green. And additionally, you can also give people a clear call to action. For example, here you can see the approve or deny buttons for an expense reporting app. They're right in the center of the message, very easy to see. And then below at the bottom in the secondary content area, in this example, we're showing a list of recent expense reports. Now, before BlockKit, as we mentioned, it wasn't so easy to design a message that could really convey rich and dense information and then act on it. So let's take a look at the old version of Guru's Slack app. Now, with the previous tools that we provided to the platform, this was really the best that Guru could do. This is all that was possible. Now, as a user, if I take a look at this, it's just frankly hard to know where to start here. And then if I'm able to read it through in detail and I find exactly what I want to do, I need to remember and then type a very precise / command. Maybe some of you have tried to explain how this type of thing works to folks who are using your apps, and we know it's not easy. So we wanted to just make it a lot simpler. Let's take a look at the BlockKit version of Guru's app. So here you can see it's a lot different. First of all, the layout is much clearer and easier to read. I can scan it easily. I don't feel overwhelmed by a big wall of text. Second, I see that the actions available to me are clear. So using this overflow menu here with just one click, I can create a new card on Guru. The feedback from users has been definitely positive that this is much easier for them to understand and easier to use. And besides adding more flexibility to your app UI, BlockKit also makes it so much simpler to do design for an app experience. So we created a new tool called the BlockKit Builder. Has anyone here tried the BlockKit Builder? That's great. If you haven't tried it yet, you can see a screenshot here. It's a WYSIWYG tool, and it enables rapid prototyping of Slack apps. And you also told us, well, rather than making me make up my design of my app from scratch, why not give me reusable design patterns? Probably a lot of apps want to do similar things. So we preloaded the BlockKit Builder with a bunch of app templates. They were designed around the most popular business workflows. Think about things like showing search results or approval flows. So in the BlockKit Builder, you can just grab a template, tweak it a little bit, and you're good to go. So I could try to explain this a little bit more, but wouldn't it be better to see it? So please help me welcome to the stage Giacomo DiGrigoli. He's product manager for BlockKit, and Jammie Mountz, front-end engineer on BlockKit.
Thank you. Hello, I'm Giacomo.
Hi, and I'm Jammie.
And this is PeopleBot. PeopleBot is a Slack app that helps employees find and search for relevant HR policies like PTO. What you're seeing here is the current version of PeopleBot that was built on Slack's legacy message attachments. But as HR policies became more complex, so too did the user needs of PeopleBot. As a user, I find this a little bit confusing. I'm not really sure which of those pieces of information is the one that I'm looking for. And frankly, I'm not sure what's going to happen when I click on one of those buttons. So Jammie, let's see if we can take a shot at redesigning PeopleBot in BlockKit.
Absolutely. Let's head over to the demo. And this is the BlockKit Builder. Along the left-hand side here, you can see all the blocks that we have available. Clicking on any of the blocks will put it in the central preview area here. And on the right-hand side, you can see all the JSON that you would need to generate this preview. We can also update the JSON live, and it'll be reflected here. Let's go get started on our prototype. We don't have to start from scratch, though. Like Ellie mentioned, we have some templates available. Giacomo, would you want to see if any of these helps us?
Yeah, that's great. Let's take a look. Cool. OK, so it looks like we've got some templates for approvals apps, for notifications, for onboarding. These are pretty common. Let's scroll a little further down, some polls. OK, great, search results. That's pretty close to what we want to do with PeopleBot. And in fact, that last template looks pretty close to what we want to do. Can we start redesigning using that template?
Yeah. All right, here's our template, but it looks like we might have to do some customization.
Yeah, I've got a lot of opinions about this. So I'd love to be able to do some things like update that emoji. I want to change the CTA. I'd like to bold a few pieces of the content.
You know what, Giacomo? It seems like you have a lot of opinions.
I do.
Why don't you come over here and do it yourself? This tool is so simple, even a product manager could use it.
Oh. All right, let's give it a shot. Cool. OK, let's see what I've got here. So first, let's change this emoji. Great, that was pretty easy. And then I want to change the CTA, because it's not managed. I want people to be able to view this content. Great. And since this is related to PTO, I'm imagining that we'll probably need some way to allow people to choose a date. So I'm going to choose this section with date picker block, and there we go. Awesome.
And I'd love to show you something here. This tool is useful for engineers as well. If you go ahead and click on the date picker and select a date that you would like to request PTO
Cool.
in 1990, and then click Show Payload there,
All right.
you can see an example of the payload that will send to your app's interactivity URL. So information like this helps our engineers build their apps.
That's awesome. OK, cool. So I love how this is going to look on desktop, but you know what my next question obviously is going to be.
How does it look on mobile?
Exactly. We want to make sure this looks good across all platforms. So how do I do that?
So up at the top there, you'll see a desktop mobile toggle. And if you click on mobile, you can actually see an approximation of what this content will look like on devices.
Awesome. Cool, but I heard you use the word approximation.
I did.
Is there a way that we can actually see what this message will look like in Slack?
Yes. So we can actually send any content from the builder into Slack, and you can view it on any device you want. So where would you like to send this?
I've got a demo channel set up here.
So go ahead and copy the channel ID,
OK.
and then put it in the bottom right corner of the builder.
Got it. And then there's a big button that says Send to Slack. I'm guessing
You click that one.
Great.
And then back in the client, you'll see the content where your designers and engineers can interact with it.
That's awesome. Thank you. Very cool. Let's go back to the slide deck to look at a before and after of PeopleBot being designed in the block kit.
Perfect. So on the left here, you can see what we had before. And then after BlockKit on the right, we have radically simplified the cluster of buttons you see and offer more context and calls to actions for users to understand their search results. For employees, it's much easier to find, view, and share the information they're looking for without needing multiple clicks.
That's awesome. What I love most about BlockKit as a PM is that it is incredibly easy to design something and sort of mock things up very quickly before even asking you to code anything.
Definitely. And what I love about it as an engineer is that I can just copy that JSON and drop it right into my app. Very easy.
Awesome. And there's a lot more to come with BlockKit. Here's a little preview of some of the things that are coming next. We're going to be, over the next couple of months, adding additional blocks into the BlockKit builder, things like a date range picker, multi-select dropdowns, and then giving you the control over where your content will truncate as well. But the thing that we're most excited about is a feature that our developers have been asking for quite some time, which is to allow BlockKit to also be coming to more surface areas in Slack. We're working on a new type of pop-up modal powered by BlockKit that'll extend the ways you can stack dynamic inputs together to gather information and context from users. And if you're as excited about BlockKit as we are, please come and visit us at the Future of BlockKit wall in the back to let us know your feedback. Thank you.
Thanks, Giacomo and Jammie. So if you're interested in seeing more about what's coming in the Slack roadmap, please join us tomorrow at 10:45 in the Opportunity track. And to wrap us up for this session, please welcome back to the stage Bear Douglas, who will talk to us more about the Slack developer community.
Thanks. So we've heard from developers often that they want a better way to connect not just with us, but with the global community of Slack developers, to share knowledge, swap ideas, share lessons learned, and also get support along the way. So here's how you can get connected with the Slack developer community after you leave Frontiers today. So for the third time, our platform team is going on a global tour to meet the makers behind the apps that are improving people's working lives inside Slack. We'll be touring Europe this summer and Asia in November, with stops along the way in Berlin, London, Paris, Tokyo, Bangalore, Sydney, and a few more to be announced. As more and more work gets done in Slack, community support is essential for everyone's success, whether you're just getting started or if you've been developing on Slack since we've first ever had APIs. And so in order to better support everyone in the community, we are launching the Slack Platform Community, a new global community network made up of local meetup-style groups run by dedicated volunteer organizers. As an SPC chapter leader, you'll have the chance to share your Slack platform skills, connect with like-minded folks in your area, and also have a chance to get to run and operate one of these groups. So visit slackcommunity.com to join or start a chapter in your hometown. Also, I'm excited to announce that we are bringing back Spec, the Slack Developer Conference, in October of this year in San Francisco. Join us on October 22nd to 23rd to celebrate our global community of builders, developers, and partners. You'll get a first look at new Slack platform functionality, up-level your skills with hands-on sessions, and spec out what's next for the industry that we're shaping together. You can get early bird tickets as of today, and we're looking forward to hearing from you at Spec. So as of today, we are also launching our call for papers for Spec 2019. We're interested in hearing about what you're building. Think of all the case studies that we shared earlier today. Many of you have stories that everyone else would really benefit from learning from. So head to slack.com/spec, and you'll be able to submit your paper proposal. So you've heard our platform vision, heard customer stories, and gotten a peek at what's coming up on the platform front. But to be clear, over the next 2 days, we're not just here to talk at you. We would like to have you leave here with something concrete that has helped you. We want to help you do. So here's what to expect over the next couple of days. Today, we're going to be working on learning how to prototype engaging app experiences in less time. Tomorrow is going to be focused on building a successful product. It doesn't stop at just functional app UX. You've solved a problem that you know your team has, but now you need people to actually use the solution you've built. So tomorrow, we'll cover what we call the missing manual of building useful apps. How do you get your app approved within your organization? How do you gain adoption among your coworkers? And last, we're going to put your newfound skills to the test in our first Slack hackathon, or Slackathon. And at the Slackathon tomorrow, we're not using traditional hackathon rules where you have to build everything in 2 hours and whatever you put together that day, you'll end up throwing away. What we're interested in seeing is application of the concepts that we've covered today. So using what you've learned, originality of a solution, and authenticity of a problem. We want you to solve a real problem you have. And so if you've already built an app, but what you want to do over the course of the next 2 days is use the shiny new block kit features that we just demoed, that totally qualifies for entry inside the Slackathon. And you don't have to wait until tomorrow to get started. We've got a booth back there with people who can help you out with getting prepped for the Slackathon, and you can start today, tomorrow, or any time in between. So we're hoping that you'll solve some real-world business challenges that you have, and you might walk away with a prize. So we've organized the next 2 days to really be practical, hands-on, and hopefully help you walk away with some improvement to your work inside Slack. But we want to know if this is actually working for you. So please take the time to open up your mobile app right now, check out the feedback portion, and let us know how we're doing throughout the next 2 days. With that, I wanted to say thank you again for coming to Frontiers, engaged, ready to learn, and let's have an amazing 2 days. Thank you.